Chapter 1. Cullen's Corner, North Carolina, is not now or ever was the center of the universe, and it didn't claim to be. Most maps left blank the space between Mistler's Point to the west and Garden Grove to the east. Local and state maps, sold at the annual Onion Days Festival, put the tiniest black dot along Highway 22 east to pinpoint the sleepy burg. Population at last census, 423. In spite of its size, remarkable things happen in Cullen's Corner. Like I said, there are the annual Onion Days Festival in July, and the Thanksgiving turkey trot and canned food harvest in November. The highlight of every year, A Cullen's Corner Christmas, an original work written by Ferris Knob, the local newspaper editor, is performed each year by members of the First Full Baptist Evangelical Church of Christ. This church is the only church in Cullen's Corner, a conglomeration of 3 denominations that joined together when they realized that dividing the body of Christ severely hampered the prospect of a full cast for the Christmas pageant. Cullen's Corner might be small, but it has its share of bad weather. Hurricanes from the Atlantic and a sporadic tornado occasionally wreak havoc in the quiet Carolina nook, but the town stands firm, picks up the pieces when Mother Nature deals a bad hand, and thanks the Lord when clouds move on and the sun comes out. Neighborhood children play in yards, on porches, and sometimes in the middle of the street with little interference. The 2 stoplights at the edges of town work nearly all the time. When they don't, hardly anyone but passers-through notice. At one of these lights, one sultry Wednesday evening in mid-June, as folks were sitting on porches to talk politics, baseball, and quilting, Eva Jean Roberts, E.J. to friends, stopped for a red light. The rented Ford carried just about everything that E.J. could throw into a suitcase in 15 minutes. A toothbrush, 4.5 pairs of socks in various colors, 3 shirts, 3 pairs of slacks, and 5 shoes. Neatly tucked in the side pocket was a small tube of Kilgore's Simply Fabulous hair foam, guaranteed to make your hair, well, simply fabulous. It was E.J.'s favorite product, partially because she used it every day, and mostly because she owned half of Kilgore's Cosmetics, such as the company was. At the time she pulled into town, the red ink overrode the pride of partial ownership. Cell phone crammed to her ear, E.J. concluded the 36th business call of the day and depressed the button. Stress lay unkindly on her features. Normally a pretty woman, tonight E.J. looked as if she'd been pulled through a knothole backwards. The light changed, and E.J. took her foot off the brake. The blue Alamo bumper sticker on the rental drew a fair share of attention from children chasing fireflies in the fading twilight. The luminescent bugs lit the faces of small children who held them close in their hands or trapped them in ball jars to show their parents, who had done the same thing for their parents before. E.J. had performed the same ritual growing up in Cullen's Corner, chasing the flying critters, capturing them, taking them to Graham's, and, occasionally, when E.J. happened to be around, proudly showing her catch to Mommy. Oh, Cullen's Corner attracted its fair share of tourists pulling off the highway at the local Conoco for gas, candy bars, and bathroom breaks. Folks stopped, but usually not this early in the season. People born in Cullen's Corner tend, like Newton's first law of motion, to remain inert, to live, work, breathe, marry, and die right here in the corner. Those who do leave tend to keep going, with no inclination to look back. E.J. belonged to the latter. None of the end-of-the-day wearies lounging on their porches or in swings drinking tea or telling stories on front stoops and porches that June evening would have known that the prodigal daughter had returned. E.J. hadn't realized it herself, even though she found herself sitting in front of the house of her own firefly-chasing, porch swinging.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.